Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my little gardening show. Things are kind of winding down. Got some stuff done. Was checking on the tomato seedlings tonight, and I don't know, just a little disappointed with some of these. Let me show you what I am talking about. So this tray in particular, the one that we've got the cherry tomatoes in mostly, kind of mixed results here. We've got a couple of them where it looks like they're coming up okay, and other places where it's real patchy. There's some where hardly any came up. Like that's my Chadwick cherries, and typically they do gangbusters. Usually don't have problems with those. New variety I got from Bay Creek, only a handful have come up there. So this tray's looking kind of spotty. Now my other tray, that's got my slicers in it, not bad, fairly decent, but not. Some of the varieties are still poking their way through, like this pink brandywine. But then I've got others like my San Marzanos. Nothing's come up. And I'm pretty sure we planted those seeds. I mean, that is a possibility. I have my son help. I mean, maybe we didn't, maybe we missed a row. And then the Italian paste. But everything else looks halfway decent. So what to do? We are really pushing the envelope on time. It's April 30th. So I've got about a month, 4 weeks to get some tomatoes going if I want to get them out in the garden on Memorial Day weekend. Now, I could wait, if they're going to be another week or two after that. They grow pretty quick, so I'll be able to get them caught up. So I think what I'm going to do is the varieties that didn't come up for whatever reason, I'm going to go ahead and start another round of seeds. Except this time I'm going to do them in my 3.5 by 5 pots and have them a little bit higher and kind of isolate them. Let me show you that. And I've started seeds this way before too, where I've got them, I'll put a bunch in the pot, cover it, wet it down, make sure this is all moist. This cover should fit over it. Now air will still be able to get out, so I got to figure that out, what I want to do here. Maybe I'll, instead of using the big pots, we'll use these little ones. That way I can get the cover on it. And then we'll come back to the big pots later. But I am inclined to do that tonight. So let's go ahead and get some stuff set up here. These pots are a little bit bigger. They're like 4 inches on the top, I think. Not as deep, but they're still a decent sized pot. And I've had these for several years. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 varieties. That I need to pot up. We did go out to the greenhouse last night, and everything is looking really well. I'll probably try to get out there tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, but should be able to get out there and check on things. And then at some point, I need to make some time to actually lay the garden out. Maybe do a little bit of weeding before some stuff gets away from us. We did spot a bunny rabbit out there underneath one of the yard barns, so I'll need to double check the fence, you know, because usually every year we've got rabbits in the garden. Somehow they get in where a gate's left open or something, and they end up getting in there and then making a nest. And I either hit the bunnies with like a weed eater or a tiller or something. I try not to do that. Last year, I set the tiller down, I don't know, about a 2-inch depth, enough just to clear the leaves, you know, kick the leaves up a little bit. And unfortunately, the bunnies were a little deeper than that. We uncovered the nest, and I had my buddy Stone came over and got the bunnies. Consequently, they didn't make it. I think he was going to try to raise them, but it got cold one night, and they didn't make it. So anyway, we'll try to handle that this year. Head that off. One thing we noticed was there was I guess, neighborhood cat that was hanging out around the house. So that's kind of kept the bunnies away from the house. If we could just get the cat to hang out a little bit by the yard barns, maybe we can keep the bunnies away from the. We did have some moles last year too that we were dealing with. They didn't stay in the garden very long, from what we could tell. So it will be interesting to see if we have anything down there this year. I'll be real interested to actually break into the ground and see what's there. See kind of what the condition of the soil is. I know this year's been a little bit different, just with everything that's going on. I mean, last year we had the luxury of COVID. I call it luxury because I don't know about you guys out there, but a lot of the activities and running around, all that stuff got canceled, you know, or put on hold. It just things were a little bit simpler. I mean, it's a little stressful not knowing where everything was going, but we did have a lot more time to spend together as a family, and spend some time doing this. Whereas this year, I've just been pressed for time. Not only that, but there's been a little bit of upheaval at work that's been difficult to deal with. And try to keep a good attitude about things and do the best we can, but it's just a challenge. So where do we want to start tonight? Let's start with our black cherry tomatoes. And again, what I'm going to do, I got our soilless grow mix. Maybe we can get the camera on this. my battery pack because the phone is low. But this is completely dry, and that's okay. So what we want to do is moisten that down just a little bit. It's got our solo cup here. We'll let that soak in for a little bit. And we'll start with our little Chadwick cherry. We'll sprinkle them in real good. Do a fair amount. Like so. And then we'll go ahead and cover them up with a little bit of potting mix. And we'll grab our little table liner here so we can water these in without we'll see how that goes. Yeah. So that worked out pretty well. So that was Chadwick cherry. Do some black cherries next, since that was one of the ones that we didn't get very good germination rate on anyway. Kind of same deal. We'll wet that pot down pretty good as well. Use my little solo cup. Let that kind of soak in pretty good. Shouldn't take very long for these to sprout, really. I mean, in 4 days, and they should catch up with these other sprouts. And then once I get them out in the greenhouse where things are pretty warm, they should take off. So even though I'm several weeks behind, I should still be able to catch up. And worst case scenario, if they're not ready for Memorial Day weekend, you know, I can plant them the following weekend or even later than that. And there's people that would do late tomatoes, you know, and not plant a live crop or their second crop to like July or something like that. All right, so we'll get our tomato seeds in there. Let's cover them up a little bit. General rule of thumb, you don't want to, like, however long the seed is about how much mix you want to put over it. So 1/8 of an inch to no more than 1/4 of an inch of potting mix over it. Let's go ahead and get our little shelf liner again. And again, we're using that so we don't wash the seeds out. Kind of helps filter the water down in a better way. Now, before we get too far along, we're probably going to want to label these. So I don't know about you, but as you get older, your memory maybe is not as sharp. And for this, I'm just using a little painter's tape. Make sure that that's relatively plain so it'll stick. And we'll just call this one Chad. And then the other one is a black cherry. Okay. So 2 down, 3 to go. We'll try to do some more San Marzanos. Some pink brandy wines. Got at least 2 more to go. Quite a few seeds in here. So again, I'm suspecting that maybe that row didn't get planted since like 0 came up. That's very unusual. And it should have come up by now. I had the heat mat set at like 85 degrees with the lid on it, plenty of moisture. So I'm not sure exactly what the deal was, other than that we probably didn't plant them. It happens. I don't have like running water in this room, so what I've been doing is just filling up gallon jugs. So when I need water, I've already got it. I don't have to go into the house to get it. So give them just water in our pot. Let that soak in a little bit. Hey James, what's up, dude? It's been a while. You've been quiet, man. I haven't seen a podcast for a little while either. What do you think that's about, man? And I noticed Dan, he seemed a little discouraged. I saw a post the other day, and I have to admit I haven't been on that platform for a couple of weeks now anyway. It's just been, I don't know what the deal is, man. I've been so busy. Or just, oh, check the YouTube. So you got a YouTube channel now, huh? Well, I'm gonna have to go check that out. See what you got cooking. Try to do some San Marzanos. I suspect my son didn't start any seeds last weekend in that row, and that's why nothing has come up. I must have distracted him. So what you been studying, bro? It's been a while since I talked to you. So I put a whole handful of these seeds in a in here. We'll make sure something's going to sprout. Oh, that's a good one. Going after the heart of children. It's important. We had that parents forum last weekend or whatever. It's pretty good. I think I told you about that book. Was it called Shepherding a Child's Heart? It was kind of divine providence, really. We just started having a bunch of kids, and they were all little. I think Emma was like, I don't know, 2. Ruthie was 1. I don't think we had Olivia. But my buddy, so maybe we did have 3 kids then. It's been a long time ago. But anyway, a lot of good principles in that book. Really, it's like helping them understand their need for a savior and stuff like that. That they're helping them recognize the indwelling sin and their need for the Lord and stuff like that. So it was real good. I mean, I guess the whole premise is that as they're doing their thing and messing up and stuff, that you address the heart issue, right? You get at the heart of what's going on. You take them to scriptures and stuff, and it's been good. And kind of gets them aware of that, and then when they get old enough, they can understand the gospel and stuff, man. It makes a big difference. Probably the biggest thing there is like just being the primary influence. All the stuff that you do, I know you do your family, like being there, just being present, being engaged, being not just leaving them to themselves. That's probably the problem with and we talked about that before, like the absence of a father figure and stuff like that. Just how important that is. I know that's not like kosher in today's world, like society and in general and all that. Like they kind of poo-poo all that and like traditional values or whatever. But you can't underestimate the influence of a dad, on a family and stuff like that. It makes a difference, It's kind of like, I don't know. I remember trying to think where I read this whatnot. It was a article about these and not to equate like people to animals, but kind of the principle applies. But the idea that there was these like young elephants that were like tearing everything up and like terrorizing. I don't know if it was at a zoo exhibit or whatever, but they just were unruly and like bullying um, other animals and this, that, and the other. And they figure out, you know what, we need to get some adult male elephants in there to teach those youngsters a lesson. And that's what they did. They brought in, um, you know, some adult elephants, and there were some, a little bit of a knockdown and drag out, but they got the youngsters in line, and they followed their lead, and they fell in line, like learned how to help socialize them basically, right? And there's so much, I mean, a lot that relates, right? I mean, you get these kids growing up without any kind of like parental authority and just allowed to do whatever they want to do, and then they get to an age where they're just in open rebellion. Um, and then they end up having problems in society, where they can't hold down a job. They can't, um, a lot of them end up incarcerated or, um, don't ever learn how to master like their body appetites and passions. So they just kind of live with, whatever feels good, and then kind of, I mean, there's all kinds of consequences to that, right? Um, I don't know, man. But I'm a parenting's tough, right? It is tough at times to be engaged, continue being watchful, and being aware of what's going on. Not just being aware, but being able to like intervene, like when you need to and stuff like that. Um, Kind of where we're at now. My older two, they're pretty well on a good trajectory. Even I'd say probably the older three. I mean, they're all, kind of know right from wrong. They know the Lord and stuff like that. They're kind of pursuing things on their own now, which is good. Like heading in a good direction. The younger two still require quite a bit of instruction. Still a lot going on. But they'll be working with me as we get things rolling, man. Try to get a garden in this year, Lord willing. Get them out and have them work with me a little bit. They're mowing grass. Yeah. They are mowing grass this year. We got 4 yards so far. Yeah, ours, my dad's, their other grandparents. Then there's a neighbor who's got them mowing and stuff, which is good, character building. And he's figuring it out too that I can earn a little money doing some of this because the grandparents and neighbor are paying him. We don't pay him to do our yard when he does mow. But it's good stuff. All right, dude. This is one of the favorites. This is pink brandy wine. I think I'm gonna mix some of the seeds we got. I'd saved seeds from a pink brandy wine. but it had crossed with another one because when I started seeds the subsequent generation, like the leaves, the foliage was different. They should have been like this potato leaf looking, and they weren't. They had crossed with another variety, so that was kind of interesting. So we'll go ahead, see if we can see this. There they are. Get a fair amount there. We're gonna go ahead and put these in. I'll show you this, dude. So we're going for this right there. I'm just going to sprinkle these in like so. They give me a fair amount. There's probably about 30, 40 seeds in the packet, so that's pretty good. Decent value. They only charged me $2.75 for that packet. So now we're going to take some of this stuff. Gonna pat that in pretty good. Put the shelf liner over it. And we'll do a little bit of water in that. Wet that down real good. And that's it, man. That's a pink Brandywine action, so we'll go ahead and label that. I tell you what's going to be funny is if these spaces in the trays that I just kind of wrote off, you know, like, well, it didn't sprout. What would be funny is if all of a sudden they do sprout. Then I got some decisions to make. See which ones are gonna we're gonna keep. A pretty good discussion at study the other night by eschatology. We've been kind of studying through the book of Jude. Good book, man. It's only like one chapter long. But anyway, I guess the whole gist of it is kind of warning the church there, like those early Christians, were about false teachers, you know, and characteristics and things like that. And but there's a reference to was it Enoch, which is kind of cool. And I guess there's and you know, there's like the Apocrypha on like Gnostic Gospels and like extra books that didn't make it into the canon, right? They were deemed as like non-inspired for various reasons. Well, I guess the Book of Enoch's one of them. You know, it's kind of interesting because I don't know, about a year, maybe 2 years ago. I'm trying to remember when that was. One of my buddies got really interested in that, you know, and next thing you know was sidetracked in some kind of conspiracy stuff and what you would call like doctrines of demons, angels, and stuff, false stuff, just kind of like taking his attention away from like the simplicity of the gospel, right, and all that. Which he recognized that after we got to talking, which is good. But anyway, it's kind of cool reference that's in there, and then can kind of study. We end up going on a rabbit trail talking about eschatology, you know, since that's kind of where we're at right now on Sundays and stuff like that. And reading through the account, I guess, in Genesis dealing with him. I think it's like chapter 5. Anyway, what's kind of cool, I guess Enoch was kind of like prophet, and Lord showed him that, you know, blood was going to happen, like judgment was coming. And it's not, it's kind of inferred and stuff. It's kind of like, well, when's this all going to happen? Well, anyway, I guess what the tradition is, and it's kind of inferred in the book, is well, when he dies, judgment comes. Talking about his son Methuselah, I guess when he was like 60 some odd years old. He had a son, whatever, and named him Methuselah. Which, when you study out that name, it means something to the effect that when he dies, judgment will come. It's kind of interesting. Which, incidentally, after he does pass on or whatever, that's when you get the whole flood account and the story of Noah and stuff. Which, you study all this out, it's kind of a picture of the Lord preserving Israel, right? That aspect of it. But Enoch's more like a proof text of, I guess, the rapture, because it talks about how he walked with God for 300 years, and then God took him, you know, transferred him, you know, and he didn't experience death or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting just studying all that out the other night. It's kind of cool stuff. So we've been spending some time in there, and it's been good. I think we're going to do another New Testament book at some point after that. So anyway, that's where I've been at here lately. Yeah, Elijah also, that's another one. It's really cool. There's a lot of cool studies. I know Ken, personally, I think he's on the, you know, again, it's kind of a secondary issue, but I think he kind of struggles with it a little bit, and like, you know, as far as timing of the Lord's return, and whether it's pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, whatnot. I think he leans toward pre-trib, but not. Maybe there's still a question there. Personally, for me, is not. I don't know. It just seems like things line up for the pre-trib version of things, you know, as far as just different examples, pictures, types that are in the Old Testament, you know, and in things and other things that are in there, like One interesting study, if you haven't studied this out, maybe you already have, um, the Feast of the Lord. I guess when you go into Leviticus 23 is when God gives Moses kind of the dress rehearsal for his plan of redemption. You know, the first four, there's 7 feasts. The first 7 are in the spring and correspond with Christ's first advent, you know, in terms of symbolism. And you got Feast of Passover, unleavened bread. It's the second one. Um, First fruits, and in Pentecost. You know, Passover corresponding to Christ's death, Feast of Unleavened Bread, his burial. First fruits, his resurrection, and in Pentecost, the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, the birth of the church, which is kind of interesting. And then there's 3 that are in the fall, which correspond with the events surrounding his second advent, right? Second coming, which are, the Feast of Trumpets or Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Day of Judgment or Day of Atonement, and then Feast of Tabernacles, which is when the Lord makes his dwelling among men and whatnot, tabernacles among us. Very fascinating, kind of studying all that out and how that kind of corresponds with eschatology and the pre-trib kind of version of events. And then the other thing that was interesting, and again, we kind of talked about this when we were studying the book of Jude, is the Jewish wedding ceremony, like all that's involved in that, and how that there's a lot of parallels between that and, again, God's plan of redemption. Because apparently when a man and a woman were betrothed to one another, when they were drawing up the contract for the marriage and this, that, and the other, it was established, after they agreed to everything, agreed to terms and all that, it was established through drinking a cup of wine, which is interesting because, Last Supper, Christ establishes the new covenant, and takes a bread, drinks a wine. It's kind of cool stuff. But anyway, there's a lot of parallels because then it was John 14. He talks about, I go to prepare a place for you. If it were not so, wouldn't told you, or something like that. And that's what the groom would do. After everything was established, he'd go back to his father's house and prepare a place for his bride. He'd basically build a room onto the father's house, preparing a place where they would live, and then he would come back at a time that she didn't know about, right? And the expectation was she was supposed to be prepared, like ready for him to return for her at any moment. Very interesting. So, a lot of cool stuff to study. There's just layers, really, of things you can kind of study out. So, anywho, got everything planned for tonight. We'll need to put a lid on it. And then what I'll probably do this weekend, as I have time, is pot up the things that did sprout. Got a couple things that But the goal will be to try to do probably about 5 trays of tomatoes. So I've got stuff that I can give away, or if stuff doesn't turn out that well in the garden this year, I've got extras. I've had to do that in the past where we had issues. All right, dude, man. Well, I appreciate you hanging with me for a little bit. I'm going to be going here as well. I got my tomatoes done, so we'll see how everything turns out. And Lord willing, I'll see you this weekend, man. So I guess that's it, man. We'll catch you on the next one.